Are we starting? I think OBS is back, transcoder's back, YouTube says it's back, Twitch says it's back, is Diode Zone back? Is Diode Zone back? Yeah, I think we're back on all the platforms. Cool. Now my keyboard is stuck and the browser is playing and now you're hearing me twice. Cool. Okay, done with that. Okay, sorry about the glitch. I don't know why YouTube dropped off. It just seemed to disappear unprovoked. The other streams seemed to work fine. Yeah, and thanks Emily for mentioning what was going on in the YouTube chat. Alright, cool. Well, we're back. So, where were we? Soldering this on. I was going to do the thing where I kind of tack it while I'm holding it to get the position just right, and then solder it for realsies. So, similar deal. I'm just going to put a little solder on the end of my iron, which isn't even hot yet. Not enough flux, really, but I'm just going to touch this. You know, that might not be nearly enough heat or enough flux. Yeah, I got a tiny bit of solder on the PCB, but not on the lead even. I think I'm going to have to use a slightly different tactic. I could try putting flux down first. I don't think I want to make quite that much of a mess when we're this close to the end of assembly. So I think instead I'm going to just solder it normally without it fully seated, and then melt that joint while I press it onto the board, and then resolder both sides. I think that's the approach that I'm going to use this time. So yeah, there's a bit more to heat up right here, because I think there's a large pad on the circuit board maybe, or maybe it's just the big pin. So now I'm pressing it. I think that joint might have been good, although I might have to go back and double check it. Giving that a little extra time to cool, and then go back and solder the second pin. Oh no, Emily was hearing 4 copies of me. That sounds terrible. It's like when I'm doing editing and video editing or something. Yeah, the left one needs a little bit of a redo, but it certainly did its job holding it in place while I was working. No. Ooh, that was dangerous. These are stiff leads. Ended up kind of trimming them at this weird angle too. Alright, well I think I'm going to go back and do solder balls and not worry too much about the trimming. Just make sure I have enough flux. Since I'm just using the flux that's in the solder here, I'm not adding extra. I think I'm going to end up with something that's easy to clean. Like it might not even need a separate cleaning step. I might take a really quick hit at it with the brush just because I can, but I don't think it needs much. This is no clean flux, which means you don't have to clean it for electrical reasons. I just don't like handling boards that are really sticky and gross. It is also often nice just to clean it off. I mean, some circuits are really sensitive. Some circuits, you know, the tiny amount of impedance difference that like flux or even a little bit of mineral residue can make is a big deal, but this circuit is certainly not one of those. All right. poster carrier stuck to the top of my brush. Fluxy, sticky brush. Alright, well if we're lucky this will work the first time. If not, we're going to have a challenging debug problem. Oh geez, YouTube already thinks the stream was 3 days ago. Maybe they are still having some problems after that last outage, I don't know. I mean, something as complicated as YouTube, I'm sure there are plenty of ways for it to break. I'm sure anybody who's worked at Google in the past could tell us about all of those if they weren't like worried about their NDA. Yeah, these are cute. Alright, chip time. Pre-programmed DS PIC microcontroller, which is like a PIC but with more digital signal processing. Maybe just more digital signals because the P was already there. Give it a little squeeze to form the leads because they were a little wide. Alright, leads are all going in. I can press it. And I think that's it, the Boldport Krell. Let's see if it works. I'm going to get an audio cable and some AAAs and be right back. The rechargeable AAAs might actually be upstairs, but I've got a couple of alkalines we can use for a while. They at least come in 4-packs, or at least these do, and having well, I guess I need 3 for this project, that's fine. Gosh, I really wish these batteries weren't branded. But now you know I have a bunch of Amazon batteries kicking around. Oh yeah, hi Tino, nice to see you catch a stream live. I know our time zones don't often line up. But yeah, I feel like I worry about doing streams late because it feels like, you know, at least for me, it's like, it doesn't seem like the right time to do them, but then again, like sometimes I really like working when it's this late, and sometimes it seems like there are enough people whose time zones and work schedules line up that it still seems like a fine time to stream. So I should just chill out and do more streams whenever it happens. And or plan them more. I'm usually planning these out pretty much as I can, and this is just what happens. But yeah, I might try going back to doing like specific slots during the week. It's just those often didn't really work out super well, but I might try them again. Oh, cool. 8 p.m. Friday, where Kawana is. That's cool. All right. Aw. I'm glad to hear that time has been flying by, if that's a good thing. If not, I'm sorry. Okay, this does have an on-off switch. I guess I should start with it off. Put in some bats. Man, why aren't batteries shaped like real bats? Alright, I don't know if this audio cable is live. I guess we'll find out. Got some blinkies. How do I make noise? It's quite possible that it's already supposed to be making noise. Let me try to find something to test this with. Because I just don't know if my actual sound input is selected right now. What do I have on my phone that is a test that is not copyrighted? Do I still have a tone generator? I think I just have some other little synthesizer I could plug in. Right back. Oh! Yeah, this is an audio routing problem. We wanted that input. The Ototo. It's a capacitive synthesizer thing. This is neat. I just wanted to test the audio input though. Let's try this. There it goes. Oh, it started out with like a really bassy rumbly noise. Okay. Well, so what do we have on this card? So button released, button held. Like it kind of makes sense that this would be maybe like, I don't know. I'm trying to compare this to like other synthesizers I've used, and this reminds me a little bit of how the pocket operators, like you can hold a button and then turn an analog knob, and it's like an absolute like potentiometer, but it uses that as kind of relative motion to control a parameter, which kind of makes sense. Anyway, I think they recommended starting with a demo song. Let's try demo bank 1. That would be button 1 and button 3 together. So that'd be like that. Ooh. Is that right? So what is this supposed to do when the button's released? And like, I guess I don't understand what that means. Like, what's the volume? Is that like a toggle? Or is that something about like the last button you pressed maybe? Okay, this is acting like a volume. So it's like we're in this column. And then this is fuzz. Maybe. I don't know if we're using these two. Flanger? I don't know if these are active either. Oh, this seems to be doing something. Yeah, the flanger seems to work. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, 8-bit warp core. Is that a band or something? I don't know that as like a specific name, but yeah, it sounds like it could be like a warp core kind of thing. Okay, it does seem like the fuzz has an effect also. I just wasn't really paying that much attention earlier. Oh, weird. Why does that seem like it changes the volume too? Because this is supposed to be volume. Okay, what about other modes? Like, what if I hold down... What about on the button held side? So this is like DCO... It's supposed to be pulse width, waveform... Like, I don't know which DCO... Like, this might be simpler to understand if I start with something that's empty instead of a demo sound, but let's listen to the other demos and then maybe, like, clear it and see if we can make some sense of that. So let's try demo bank 2. That would be... Oh. It's a different chord entirely. That's 4 and 6. That's like these two. That's neat. Let's try the next one. It's 2 and 5. These two. That sounds familiar. Oh, is DCO 0 through 3, are these like steps in a step sequencer? Is that what's going on here? It looks like the steps were a little different before. Like, was that my imagination? Let's go back to the first demo. No? Oh, that's cool. I thought I saw it in a mode where it was like flashing on the inside and the outside. This is more what I'd expect though. This is great. Are these a little different each time I select one? They are. Oh yeah, this is one of the ones on the website. Oh, this is not volume, this is something else. So I'm expecting maybe that when you're like while you're holding a button, it puts you into this column on this side, and then right after you release it, you go into the column on this side. So I think pressing this momentarily and then adjusting this will be volume. Yeah, that's volume. some point it distorts. Is this just the fuzz? Okay, this is starting to make more sense. Okay, let's I'm just gonna play with the demos a little more and then quack, 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 quack. Oh, this is great. I should probably be recording this on audio too, so that I can turn off my mic maybe. And, I mean, I guess I'm sitting next to the mixer. I could turn off the mic that way too. Like, if you want less room noise for a sec. So I think these four DCOs correspond to the steps here, but let's try clearing it and making something from scratch just to see if that matches our expectations. It also does look like these are relative controls. Like if this kind of takes on a new meaning, then moving it a little bit to one direction changes that control a little bit in that direction. But at some point you run out of range, and like if you, like I was noticing that I was like changing something in one direction and I think it was already at the maximum. So I get to the end and then I move it the other direction and it starts changing in a really obvious way suddenly. So to watch out for that. So it looks like reset is a chord between this one and this one. Reset. And then let's try selecting, let's see, that's button held, that's button released. Waveform, frequency, amplitude LFO. Alright, let's just try this stuff. So, selecting DCO 0 first, that button released. And let's see which one of these we need to turn for it to make any sound. Amplitude, maybe? Pitch. Okay, we've got one oscillator now. Doesn't seem to be keyed to the steps though. Okay, this is DCO amplitude, DCO pitch. A little hard to tune it to a note, but you can kind of get it. LFO frequency. Oh, that's interesting. So the pitch we're hearing changes when I turn the DCO up or down, or when I turn the LFO up or down. But that's the LFO amount. Is that maybe the DC level coming out of the LFO, and the LFO is set to 0 hertz or something? Oh, I think that was it. Yeah, I think the LFO is set to 0 hertz, and that was the DC level. If I turn the LFO frequency up a little bit, then that starts oscillating noticeably. Yeah, I'm with Emily on this, that the interface is super weird, but that's part of the appeal. I personally really like the pocket operators too. I've got one of the pocket operators, which are these inexpensive, there are these like, this whole family of different kind of music tools and synthesizers and like weird little sound gadgets that are made by Teenage Engineering. And they also make like really high-end stuff, but the pocket operators tend to be pretty affordable. Oh, cool. So this is sine wave. This is square wave. Is this triangle wave, maybe? It's going to be ramp or sawtooth. This is DCO waveform. Yeah, so I think this is sine wave again. I think that's square wave. Do we only have sine and square, or? Oh no, I think that's triangle and then ramp. Oh, and noise. And silence? This is great. This is a little bit like programming like a Game Boy or an analog synthesizer of some kind, like where you have a specific kind of chain of components connected together. And part of the fun is like understanding that chain of components, and then part of the fun is like figuring out what you can do to mess with them. Yeah, I like saw wave too, the one right before silence. And then this should be LFO frequency. Let's make that a little more subtle. Okay, so this is one voice. This is one of our DCOs. Then we have effects. We have these like additive synthesis, master volume, ring modulation. Oh, you can connect DCO 2 and 3 together, and you can connect DCO 0 and 1 together. That's cool too. And then there's reverb. How do we use the step sequencing? Like, what happens if we just start messing with another DCO? Is it just going to overlay that on top, or do the LEDs control that somehow? So DCO 2 is this button. There's the frequency. Oh, that was the waveform of the DCO. I think that loud one was square wave. I think the square wave is louder. What was that? Oh, that's the LFO waveform? I think that's changing the DC levels again, because I think the LFO frequency is 0. Oh yeah, that's an LFO square wave. Yeah, I think it'd be fun to duplicate and detune it. This is sounding a bit like Super Mario Brothers, like Bowser boss battle kind of stuff. How are they doing the lower frequency stuff? Was that all LFOs or? Okay, now I kind of want to load some of the demos and then play with them to see how they work now. What other effects are we totally missing? Like, we haven't played with the modulation at all, really. Let's try going back to a demo. Okay, how does this work? So let's just try the volume controls for each DCO. That would be after releasing the DCO button, controlling, not master volume. Oh, DCO amplitude, this one. Is this only using DCO 0, or is it modulating everything with that? Because I think I'm turning that volume down and then it's quiet. Oh, I think this is modulating DCO 1 with DCO 0. Oh, maybe they're using 2 for some bass. Oh, that's cool. I don't know if they're using DCO 3. Demo. Oops. There are some sharp spots. These, I think I might have wanted to trim these on the back of the potentiometers. They're a bit sharp. Wow, this is one of the DCOs, so I think that it's modulation again. Yeah, that's cool too. Kind of a bit of like swarm of insects or something kind of feel here. Let's try another demo. Oh, how does this work? Because I thought this was a step sequencer, but maybe it isn't. Maybe the LEDs are just for fun. It does seem like these are aligned though. Like, is the LFO maybe set so the lowest frequency corresponds to the LEDs or something? Let's go check the volumes on the DCOs and see what those do. That's DCO 0. Oh, did the LEDs switch directions? Oh, they did, when I switched DCOs. Oh, weird. This is very alien. This is DCO 1. Oh, and then 3 is the back and forth. Oh, okay. So it kind of matches this LFO, maybe, but it also indicates what LFO. Has the speed changed? So that would be pitch LFO frequency. Aw. Oh, that's nice. This is like a little bit in the background. And the last DCO, what is that like? Forward. Oh, that one has the 2 LEDs back and forth. Ah. Oh, I like this. I want to hook this up to a MIDI pedal or a MIDI something. Okay, then there's also effects on 5. I was expecting to see this do 3 different things. I think this is the modulation type, which could be set to none, ring, or frequency. I only notice it doing 2 different things. This is reverb feedback, maybe? Oh, and this is effects mode. Cool. And what about master mode? What does that look like? Oh, that's this one. Okay. Like, in and out. And it doesn't have other patterns for while you're holding down the buttons, does it? No. The pattern switches as soon as you press the button. I like that. That was the pulse width. Why does the pulse width do that? I think because this is modulated by some other DCO, so it's a little more complicated than just hearing this pulse width, I guess. I think we're hearing interference patterns between this being modulated with something and some other oscillator. Yeah, the sounds are a little Halloween-y. Oh, this is great. This is pretty fun. I think it might be time to wrap up the stream soon, because I'm kind of running out of steam for just aimlessly playing with this thing, but it is pretty great. I'm going to have to get more used to it and try to do some demos of it later. Let's load another demo just to change things up a bit. This one's a bit quieter. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, right? Yeah, no, the demos are good. Like, I'm gonna have to learn how these work, because I feel like there's a lot of interesting sound hidden in this device. Yeah, no, this is one of my favorite kits so far. This is great. Oh yeah, Emily's just slowing and stretching it. Yeah, that could be great too. I am recording it right now. So if anything interesting happens, we can mess with it, but I mean, this is mostly demo content so far. Oh yeah, there's another question about just like what this is. So yeah, this is called the Krell. It's a kit by the Boldport Club. So you can actually see all that on this card. So it's called Krell. You can go to boldport.com/Krell. And it is an electronics kit that we just put together. And it's based on code that runs on this chip. This is a DS-PIC microcontroller. And so it's running code just like an Arduino that would sample all these inputs and then generate some audio. Unlike most Arduinos, this is somewhat specialized for signal processing, so it's a little bit better at generating audio probably than like an ATmega, even though people do make pretty nice synthesizers on ATmegas sometimes. Yeah, and then the actual synthesizer it's implementing is this actually pretty neat, like 4-voice oscillator contraption with a bunch of modulation options. And even though it's got these pulsing LEDs, as far as I can tell, it's not actually a step sequencer. The LEDs are more kind of for visual/UI functionality. And most of what we're hearing now are the interactions between the frequencies on these different oscillators doing interesting stuff together. See, like, this sounds like maybe there's like one oscillator that's kind of like wandering around slowly. There's a square wave that's going between the high and the low modes. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's really going on here, kind of take apart some of the sounds. Like, that's DCO0. That's DCO1. Is that an amplitude modulation, maybe? I don't know. DCO3? I don't know what DCO3 is doing here. And DCO4? Oh yeah, Emily says there's probably some delay and other effects processing. Yeah, I mean, some of that's even probably accessible here, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's like some light processing on it always, just because that's probably better than sending square waves directly into the headphones. What is additive synthesis? That's with this button released. Turning this one. Yeah, I don't know what that's for. Oh, that's the flanger. What is the flanger even doing here? I mean, this is so weird. I don't think I understand flangers enough to even get what's going on here. It's just kind of fun. Flanger was like a modulated delay, but I don't actually remember off the top of my head. Oh, there's a reverb oscillator and more parameters for the flanger with the button held. Okay. Flanger pulse width, waveform, and bass. This is flanger pulse width I'm adjusting. Or sorry, that was that was flanger pulse width. Oh, flanger waveform. change the waveform on the second LFO. I'm not quite sure why it did that. Maybe that was the thing that used to be a square wave and I turned it into a sine wave? Oh, see, here's somebody who recognizes Forbidden Planet. See, that's cool. I thought that this was, so I was like mentally confusing Forbidden Planet and Fantastic Planet. And Fantastic Planet is something which I have seen and I really like, and Forbidden Planet I just don't really know about. So I'm glad somebody out there knows what this is. It does sound like it's saying wow to me. Why is that changing? Yeah, I don't quite understand. I thought that was the frequency. Now it seems like it's changing the amplitude of that modulation, maybe. Let's try DCO3, or sorry, DCO. I'm getting confused between how this is button 3, I guess, and it's the numbering for the DCO starts with 0. So I guess this is DCO2. I don't know if this one's being used. Why can't I hear it though? Huh. Is this modulating this one maybe? I can't seem to do anything with the last 2 DCOs now. I don't know what I did. Let's load another demo. Okay, can we take this one apart? That's DCO 0. DCO 1 doesn't seem to do anything. Nor does DCO 2. So is this only using one of the DCOs maybe? That was the DCO pitch? I guess that makes sense. Is this just being modulated with, like, oh, what is even going on here? Okay, the pitch LFO is this one. I don't think what we're hearing is LFO mostly. I think I've got the LFO off. I think that's the DCO set to noise. I think the DCO is making a sine wave there. I don't know. Is it the flanger? What is even additive synthesis? I just want to know what's making this sound. That's the flanger. Flanger is having some effect, but not very much. Oh man, G Krell M. I used to run that too. Yeah, I didn't get the reference. Oh gosh, I must have ran that in like the early 2000s, like right around the turn of the century. I wonder when that was actually written. It feels like the flanger is doing something, but I don't quite understand. I don't think that's what's going on here. Is this the reverb LFO? Oh, a flanger is a sweeping filter. Okay, thank you. I was getting that confused with some of the things you can do with delays. Yeah, I guess I should watch this movie now that I know it has good meters and good audio at least. Yeah, so I don't know where this sound is coming from. The like periodic nature of it. I don't know what's causing this to not just be a tone. It's using one of the DCOs. I think the flanger and the reverb aren't doing much. Can we make sure that the reverb and the flanger are off, maybe? Oh, that's the reverb LFO. Yeah, but that's the reverb LFO off. Yeah, the flanger is kind of subtle. I don't think that would cause what we're hearing. Is there some other modulation we're missing? Whoa, 1956. That's cool. Yeah, a little bit before my time, but I should catch it up. Oh, this is actually a sound from the movie right here. That's cool. I mean, yeah, this is mostly one of the demos. I haven't really messed with it that much, apparently. Quack, 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 quack. This is great. Oh, hey, Tuco. Yeah, each of these, I just want to see how they work. So I'm like selecting each of the oscillators and changing the volume. That's DCO 0. I don't think they were using DCO 1. If I turn it on, I get that. That's DCO 2. Doesn't seem to be anything. DCO 3. I also think they weren't using that though. What about these modulation options? I think I've got that modulation set to none and it's still doing this. It's not the reverb, it's not the modulation. I don't know. The flanger is interesting, but that certainly isn't making the sound that we're mostly hearing. Amplitude LFO. Is it the, I mean, I thought we checked that. Like, this is supposed to control the amplitude LFO frequency. It doesn't seem to be changing the frequency of the noise we're hearing. Oh, I think I had the wrong DCO selected. Oh. That totally is it, the amplitude LFO. Okay. That's better. Okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this. The bass is kind of nice. Let me add another DCO to this. Which control is causing this DCO not to make any noise? I feel like using this effectively, you'd really have to get a good mental model for what its internal state is. Because I feel myself really wanting, like if this was Ableton or something, I would want to like stare at a window with the parameters for all the oscillators and imagine how they interact with each other. And to do that here, you kind of have to already have that stuff in your head. Oh, okay, so I was wondering how that works with the knobs. I guess, so this is Ben from Boldport. The mental model that I was starting to come up with for the knobs was based on one of the ways that I'm used to MIDI controllers working, which is where when you switch modes, it takes whatever, because like when you switch modes, the software has some other notion of where the current position is for each control that is no longer going to match the actual physical knobs. And so there are different ways that the software works around that. And one that I've seen is like, let's say you switch the knob, it will make the relative motion kind of take effect immediately in that same direction. But if you hit the edge, then you kind of get stuck and you have to go back the other direction and then try again, like with more room ahead of you. I thought I noticed that happening, but like maybe I was misinterpreting the signals I was seeing. Okay, and yeah, I should read that instruction PDF too. It's been fun playing with it though. Like, it's a little bit confusing, but in a way that I really enjoy. So yeah, these are all parameters for one of the DCO channels that I've been adjusting. And yeah, we also kind of figured out how the LED patterns show you what you're adjusting. At first it seemed like it might, be a step sequencer or something, but yeah, I really like it. Let's take a brief look at that PDF, and then I should probably end the stream and get ready for sleep at some point here. Let's maybe put it on another demo while we're looking at the instructions. It's always nice to have streaming music that the YouTube copyright bot isn't going to jump on. Oh, hey Tuco, thanks for changing the channel. Oh yeah, so these are from MADLab. So 4 oscillators, mixer, LFOs, delay line. Oh, hey Tuco, you're such a good cat. Yeah, and we saw buttons for saving and restoring. That seemed pretty cool. So it does have memory, so you can save stuff that you come up with. Hertz to 8 kilohertz. Oh, there's rising and falling sawtooth. I didn't notice that. That's cool. That one would be more obvious, like with a lower frequency, like LFO. Oh, okay, I guess I guessed right, that the subsequent movements are relative to the previous position. To obtain full range, it may be necessary to move it first to the 2 extremes. Okay, that's a pretty common technique I see on MIDI controllers. It's a little weird at first, but if you've used other, like, audio hardware, it might be less weird. So that makes sense to me, at least. Ooh, rich and inharmonic partials. Pairs of oscillators can be ring modulated. Yeah, that sounds fun. I should play more with ring modulation here. Dynamic filter. Oh, it's a comb filter. Right, okay. I guess I was part right, because I was saying that I thought a flanger was a variable delay line, and I guess it kind of is. It's just like, you can think of that as an implementation detail for building a variable filter. Like, those two things have some correspondence. It's cool. Rooted is wondering if I'm an EE, electrical engineer. Yeah, kind of. Is that Tuco? I assumed Tuco was knocking stuff off. I couldn't actually tell what that was. Yeah, I mean, I guess I consider myself an electrical engineer. I do electrical engineering occasionally. I've never really had a full-time job doing electrical engineering, but I've taken some classes around it. It's mostly just been a thing that I do, I guess. So yeah, I guess the answer would be yes, but maybe not in an extremely formal capacity. Yeah, a couple of people have said this thing sounds pretty Halloween themed, so I guess it's pretty good for this month. Okay, cool. And then Emily had a good question about MIDI, about whether it accepts parameter change messages. And then Ben mentions that the MIDI stuff is pretty, like, untested at the moment, but it definitely works with ASCII messages over serial. That's cool. And it seems like, I don't know if this is a reprogrammable pick, but if the pick is reprogrammable, we could probably try like updating the firmware in the future. I thought there was something in the instructions about firmware reprogramming, so I'm assuming this is not a one-time programmable part, probably. It's probably a flash memory part. Well, yeah, I think this is pretty good. I think this is a good stopping point, but thanks so much for everyone who stopped by and participated, and thanks so much for Ben for stopping by from Boldport. Thanks to all the regulars coming by, and a special thanks to everyone who pitches in on the Patreon to help keep this going. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, the knocking... Oh, I need to figure out how to get Tuco off that. I should have paid more attention to that noise. That was Tuco climbing on something he really shouldn't have been on. I'm not extremely worried about it, but it's like a thing that's attached to the wall that I don't know if it's that strong, so I just imagine the whole thing coming crashing down with him on it. So I need to figure that out. Anyway, thanks a lot. I will see you next time, and thanks a lot to everyone who participates, sends stuff in, donates, hangs out. It's all super useful to keep this going, and I appreciate it a lot. So thank you. See you next time.